guys, what is going on? Redmaster here, and welcome back to the episode of Cards and Castles, where today we do actually have another hidden combo deck to showcase for you guys. It is going to be a not, I'm going to be saying this probably a good amount, pop maybe throughout the video, we'll see, but it isn't a really strong competitive deck. It's more like one of those decks that you kind of try for fun, because you're just experimenting and you want to see like, oh, I wonder what kind of things this can do together with it, and it's just it evolved into something fun, and I was might as well show you guys if you want to try it out for yourself. It is a pretty fun rush deck if that interests you guys. So, without going too much into it here, let's take a look at the LavaWinds deck. So here's our deck list for the LavaWinds deck, and as you can tell, it's a pretty early rush type deck. It does have some late game features that where you really start to have fun with the deck, but overall, I would kind of say it's an interesting variation or an interesting take on what you normally see in a rush deck. So of course, these are the Warlock and Viking factions, and overall, I mean, like you have a lot of, I guess, 1 to 3 gold units. You really only have 6 different 4 and over cards, that being Drain Life, Pillar, Pega, Nord, and the General. Everything else is very cheap, so you're going to be getting them out at least within the first opening turns of it. You should at least have something to throw out at the beginning of the turn, which is always effective. And we're just going to kind of run by the cards for you guys now and show you, or at least explain to you why I might be running certain cards that I am. And we'll start out first with something that I know a lot of people don't usually see in decks, and that's the Archer. Now, the Archer is a basic, of course, 1 gold, 1/2 range unit, but it does help. Especially in the early game when you run into things like Lumberjack and the Rider, which are both at only 1 health, and even the Imp is at 1. You can take advantage of Archer's range and, of course, pick them off fairly early. Sure, you may be giving them draw, but at least you still have a unit on the board, and you're not taking the face damage from Rider or Lumberjack. You're just picking it off and moving on. It's not meant to, of course, stay out for long periods of time, but it can ultimately help you secure the early game. And of course, while we're talking about Lumberjack and Salahar Rider, they're both in the deck as well as Fear, topping out our 1 gold cards. Now, of course, Lumberjack and Salahar are in here for obvious reasons. If you're running a rush deck, those two are great cards to have, both Lumber for the draw and Salahar for the possible 4 face damage right from the get-go. Fear is also a welcome addition to the deck because we are working with some obstacles, or what used to be known as obstacles, that being Infernal Furnace and the Molten Pillar. So having Fear as sort of a knockback and sort of sending enemy units back into maybe a Molten Pillar or Infernal Furnace Inferno, it of course is quite useful. And as well, the draw, obviously these colors do lack them, so of course getting draw from any source you can is going to be good draw. From there, we move into our 2 golds. I am running, of course, the Imp and the Flower. People have been running Imp quite a lot lately since I've been making, or since the FOD video came out. So I'm glad to see that people are starting to take, or are more aware of what the Imp can really do. Vicious Sunflower, you do have, of course, for obvious, well, not so obvious and obvious reasons. It's a slower unit but if it gets to the face, quite the damage can be done, or yeah, quite the damage can be done. I had to check that English for a second. If you get him to the face, more than likely you may not, but having the opponent waste some sort of burn or put in extra resources to get rid of the flower is always a benefit, especially when you're working off of low resources in your hand. If you're getting your opponent to waste as many resources as you are, that's always a good thing. And to top off the Warlock side, not the Warlock, the 2 gold side, we do actually carry Arcfire. Now, the reason I'm carrying Arcfire, you'll also notice that there's a lot of different mages in this deck. We've got Acolyte, Pyro, Wind Mage. I think that's about it, right? Yep, I think. Yeah, I'm kind of looking through myself. So having those 3 units, and units that are definitely going to be hopefully out on the board for maybe a turn, or, well, they are easy burn targets, I will say that, but carrying Arcfire to provide that 4 damage can be useful. It's cheaper than a Blue Fire Bolt, and if you want to include that, you most certainly can. But I chose to not include it for now, and I'm going to see how Arcfire runs in the deck, and so far I've been liking it. Sure, not having the 4 damage can hurt, especially when you're dealing with some building decks out there, but the 4 damage is useful if you have something like a Wind Mage or an Acolyte play the same turn and then following up with that damage. Whereas with Blue Fireball, you may be only to choose between summon and damage. In this one, you're probably going to end up getting both the damage and the summon. So hence why Arcfire is there. Of course, still trying to test that card out in the deck. Blue Fire is a viable option in case. From there are 3 drops. We've got, of course, Acolyte, Pyro, playing as sort of a mage support to the deck, as well as Blacksmith to provide extra attack. Detonate as a scary but effective trap for 5 damage. If you're getting caught, weak units like Lumberjack to the face or Salahar to the face, turn 1. You can easily coin out into a Detonate turn 2, and boom, that's about 5 more damage to the enemy face, and you're most likely to be taking out whatever unit that attacked your unit, whether that be summoning as small as another Lumberjack or as powerful as, say, a Witch Doctor. Who knows? From there, we move on to Infernal Furnace, and that is probably one of the key components of the fun aspect of the deck, I would say. All around, Furnace is a interesting card. It not only deals Inferno 3, but the initiative of dealing 2 extra damage to a random enemy when it comes out is pretty useful. Handling down those swarms a bit there if you're running into those, or weakening, or actually killing maybe, something that's going to be in this gold range. Looking back here, I think this can pretty much kill anything here except for Flower and Acolyte, and then Blacksmith, but that's alright. I would say Infernal Furnace is mostly there for the whole obstacle and wins combination rather than the random damage. And then, of course, Pyromancer, similar to Acolyte, throwing in mage support to reinforce the deck, and Spear Strike for not only draw, but I think the attack does come in handy. Usually Spear Strike is going to be what you're counting on as the removal, and paired with the mages, Spear Strike works effectively to take out any enemy that might cross your path. So things like swordsmans, griffins, if you happen to find those, furnace knights. I'm trying to think of just units off the top of my head that are 7 and up. And then from there, we move on into our more late game stuff, and obviously you can kind of see what's going on in here. Obviously, the Nord and Molten Pillar combinations work very well for dealing face damage. Not only do you have a chance to spring an Inferno 4, but you're guaranteed a Last Will Explosion for 4 onto the castle if you play this in combination with Winds of the Nord, which, again, fun to do and something that the opponent doesn't really see coming. Plus you have things like Drain Life, again, another damage from the hand, and also buffing mages, very dangerous. Acolyte can become a 3/5, Pyro a 4/4, same with Wind Mage, so you see why Drain Life's in here. More damage from the hand, plus buff. Pegacorn, I think just a overall strong unit for the deck, especially with that Rainbow Shield not being affected by the Inferno. It can just charge right in there, being covered by a Furnace or a Pillar to do some 5 damage if needed. Wind of the Nord, I already kind of explained what it does with Pillar, plus Wind of the Nord, pulling everything including Castle to face. Easier for your mages to hit without being threatened, and get your melee units one step closer to hitting face from summon. And then, of course, carry the General, because we do actually have a decent amount of Last Will in here. The Pillar for 1, the Flower for another, Rioter. So there's some Last Will aspects that that the General can bounce off of. And overall, having that strong body in here certainly helps if the need be for you to drag out the game longer and longer. So overall, I mean, that is the LavaWinds deck. Not competitive. I'm going to keep reinforcing this as much as I can, but I will say it's been a very fun deck to play around with. So, with that being said, let's jump into the gameplay and show you guys what this deck is exactly capable of. Alright, so in our opening hand here, we do have a pretty good start, I would say. A nice curve, Archer to Imp to Wind Mage. Nice way to start this out. Our opponent is actually playing the same colors. I doubt he's playing what we're playing, but we'll just have to wait and find out. We'll open up with the Archer, see what he comes out with. Possibly Lumberjack, possibly Salahar Rider to open things off. Those would be good trades for us. He'll actually use a Metal of Bravery on his turn 2 and get the Altar Flowin. Fantastic. So, off the bat, a little shaky. Altar is, of course, one of the cards that has caused major problems within the past few weeks in terms of the value outputs, constant zombies every turn. He'll follow up with the Hassan City Guards. Quite interesting there, getting a lot of different targets out on the field. But we do have okay, so we'll hit there. Of course, we could also use our Archer right here to hit him. And then let's go with a Pyromancer up. Not, of course, 2, because that's opening the space above right here for our Pyromancer to get hit. But I think just enough to make it a threat, I would say. Warlock definitely probably got a burn for it. I'm not going to be surprised if Flamestorm comes out right now and wipes the entire board. Which I will make a note, this deck can easily fall to things like that, I would say, in the early stages with the weakness of units, but overall I don't think it's a huge deal. He played a Banshee, of course, not moving it this turn, which is quite interesting to see. But I think what we can do here, I'm just having a little thought here. We could probably do our Wind Mage, push him back a bit, Pyromancer up 1, Lumberjack up here, Wind Mage down 1. And again, worrying about the Flamestorm, a lot of value from the Flamestorm can be had at this stage right now. But my hope is to get Pyromancer to shoot down that altar. The Blacksmith in hand is going to help us tremendously, as it's going to help us make a lot more effective trades or get a lot more value. Although I'm kind of nervous here. We're down cards. Of course, Lumberjack does provide draw. He also going to play a trap. Okay, interesting. I may need to spring that. I mean, that depends on what it is. It can very well be a disintegrate. Not disintegrate. Detonate. It could be a detonate. It might have the Minotaur. I just don't know what it is. But it really doesn't look like he's throwing anything else up. Okay, Banshee comes up very aggressively. Alright then. Alright. So let's do a Blacksmith. Oh, shoot. Alright, Flame of Eternity. Okay, not what I was expecting, but still, I don't think that was the worst thing that could have happened for us. Because now we can still hit our Wind Mage. Of course, that takes out the Banshee. What is that going to give him? Journey of the Faith. We'll also trade our Lumberjack here for draw, since we can. Spear Strike. Alright, that could be useful. And then I guess what we could do is our Archer comes up here. Takes him out. Can move our Pyromancer, I would say, down. I don't want to hit face. There's no point in hitting face right now. I would say, yeah, down here, and then, of course, I think Salahar can come up there. I would say we have a pretty good rush at the moment. I mean, he does have a lot of cards in his hand, though. The colors he's running, though, really shouldn't be holding that many cards in his hand. I'm not sure if he's just got a lot of expensive cards, Pegacorn, for example, or if he's just not finding any use to playing them. Alright, Rune Warrior. So I did prepare for that. Of course, if I put my Salahar in the normal position of, right up there, 2 in front of the castle, I would have just exposed myself to a Rune Warrior. But let's take advantage of that. We'll kill off 1 Rune Warrior, move the Salahar up, and then end turn there. Nothing, of course, can be hit. At least not directly. Winds in the North could definitely switch things up, although the zombies aren't going to help, and that's going to be a majority of his gold. He'll play a Windfall Griffin, which is why I'm going to carry the Spear Strike with me. Any one of these guys can get it right now. Will take out the Griffin, so who's going to do it? Wind Mage will be our boy. And then, okay, here's a good thing for us. We can do a... Ooh. I can do a Pyro play down here. That takes out 1 zombie, gets a face hit off. But then Salahar moves down here. Infernus damages... Okay, it damages the altar. And then we'll move a second Salahar up front. And then if he leaves the Infernal Furnace, Salahar does die, true, but that'll activate her last will. And doesn't look like anything. I mean, granted, again, he's holding a decent amount of cards there. Okay, so he'll kill off the Salahar himself, not letting the Infernal Furnace take that trade. The zombie, of course, on the bottom is sluggish. It can't do anything, but he's got 7 gold. And he does realize that if he does hit the Infernal Furnace, he could be in a spot of bother. Because it will open up the Pyromancer. Or open up to the Pyromancer, I should say. He'll play a Furnace Knight, though. Which can, of course, kill that with no problem. If he doesn't, he'll take 3 Inferno. Okay, he hits the Pyromancer. Interesting call. Do you have something else for the Furnace then? You have to. Oh, alright. Flame Shield. Well, my Inferno's gonna hit first. And then I could easily just do this. I can arc fire you, and that's why I carry the arc fire. You see the extra damage from the mage presence actually coming in. Well, not actually coming in. I mean, it did come in handy, but that's why you carry it. More damage for less gold. So now we've cleared his board, and we're threatening the Arcanon General onto face, and of course, Salahar Last will be affected by the Arcanon General. He'll play a Headless Horseman. That's going to hit our Wind Mage, unfortunately, and he'll probably more than likely take out the Furnace at this point. He has to, recognizing how much of a threat it is for him. Nope, he's going to ignore it for a second time. Does he have anything to take it out? You have to. You can't. I mean, there's nothing blocking you from hitting it. I mean, he's got to have something. I can understand the Furnace Knight play, but this I just don't get. Oh, alright, Blacksmith. Fair enough. So that's going to be his plan here. Ooh, okay, good stuff. What I can do here is, of course, hit with the Salahar, and then place down the Molten Pillar, right? Yeah. The General comes in and explodes for 4, dealing damage to the Blacksmith, killing it, and ultimately the game, or his castle, is down to 1. We essentially just have to stall for the rest of this game. A little difficult to do now that we have no cards in our hand, but he's only got 3 cards and a zombie that can't really attack. And if he does hit the General is going to trigger another Molten Pillar. So his target right now is the Pillar. He unfortunately will not do that, meaning that the game will end. Which, of course, it's I like the effect of the Molten Pillar and General combination there, and that's what's ultimately going to cost him the match. We saw I think a lot of this deck does base around early pressure, as you saw by the match. We put a lot of units down his face. We forced him into a lot of tough spots. Of course, him being a level 17 or rank 17, I should say, may not have been the best he may not have the best collection. But ultimately, I think the deck is still fun, and that was a fun match to definitely showcase it. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this isn't a competitive deck by any means. It's just a fun way to incorporate Inferno or Winds in the North if you happen to have those 2 elements into a deck. So overall, I would say I would probably, if you want to give this a try, but let's just move on into the outro, because I think that's a good place to wrap it up for the day. With that being said, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy the LavaWinds deck. If you did, please let me know by giving this video a like, share with your friends, and comment down below your thoughts on the deck as a whole. And if you're going to use it or not, try it. Tell me what you think of the deck if you are using it for yourself. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you are new to the channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Help show your support for the channel. Help it grow all by clicking that subscribe button. Sometimes clicking does not come out properly when I go too fast. I gotta always make a note of that. But with that being said, guys, until next time, stay gaming.